Brothers of the Sword Productions, Black Madonna Decoding, and Oak Island Connection. During my Oak Island research, I kept running across Black Madonnas in Spain, and especially France, where there's a large population of them. At one point I started toying around and drawing lines at the base of the bearing and distance calculation arcs that were found in my Oak Island series, and I was surprised that the line drawn from Qumran, Israel, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, to Oak Island went very close to the portal of Gibraltar, which bottlenecked between what the ancient scribes called the Pillar of Hercules. If coconut fibers were found in the money pit, perhaps their origin was the Mediterranean Sea. If William Wallace disembarked at La Rochelle, France, it really isn't very far from the Rock of Gibraltar. Both locations, La Rochelle and the portal of the Mediterranean Sea, are pretty much a straight shot across the Atlantic Ocean to Oak Island. Next, I drew my attention to the archipelago of the beautiful and diverse Spanish-held Canary Islands off the coast of Africa, where the Virgin of Candelaria appeared. On the original statue's drapery, strange letters were embroidered in red and gold on various parts of her body that has never been deciphered. She is honored with festivals twice a year that are held on the 2nd of February and the 15th of August. One striking feature that I noted from the main Canary Island, Tenerife, that connects with my Oak Island translations is that Tenerife is flying the same flag as Scotland. However, they say the Tenerife flag is supposedly a darker navy blue. I see very little difference between them. They give two possible reasons for this remarkable but hard to believe coincidence. The first is that the flag was adopted as a mark of respect to the bravery of the Scottish soldiers that had fought in the Battle of Santa Cruz in July of 1797, when the British attacked the Tenerife capital of Santa Cruz, which ended in a Spanish victory. An alternative theory is that the most influential masters of the Masonic Grand Lodge of Scotland of the island of Tenerife chose a design similar to the Scottish flag for the maritime province of this Canary Island. Perhaps somebody watching this can apprise me of more of a connection between Scotland and the Canary Islands. The Virgin of Candelaria was found in 1392 by two local Gauche goat herders on the beach of the Canary Island of Tenerife. Gauche are aborigines from northern Africa and are similar to Berbers. Legend has it when they discovered the Madonna, one shepherd could not move his arm to throw a rock at it, and the other stabbed himself with a knife trying to stab the statue. The Virgin statue was taken to the King's Cave Palace called Cuerva de Chingurro. Originally, the Gauche worshipped her in their pantheon as the main Sun Mother Goddess, or Mother of all Gods, in which I believe is pronounced Shurshi Roxy. She allegedly was an adaptation of a Punic and Phoenician goddess called Tanit, which was a deity of Carthage worshipped by the Berbers. Coincidentally and unexpectedly, Tanit is a goddess found in another up-and-coming decoding that I'll be doing. Later, when the Spanish came onto the scene, she was worshipped as the Virgin Mary holding the child Jesus, and the statue was then moved to the cave of Archibenico. Twice she had been stolen. Earlier in her history, she had been taken to the Canary Island of Lanzarote and returned after the island had succumbed to an outbreak of the plague. Later, Christopher Columbus stole the statue on his first New World voyage, but she was also returned due to an outbreak of the plague. In 1668, the old Basilica of Candelaria was built, but after a fire, a new basilica was built in the late 1950s. The cave of Archibenico is located right behind the basilica. In 1826, the original statue of the Virgin was swept away by a tsunami, and a reproduction is now on display in the new basilica. Strange letters were embroidered on the original statue's drapery in red and gold that had never been deciphered, but in reality it's not a code at all. From my translation, the person who stitched the missives on the Virgin's garment appears to have been multilingual, fluent in Latin, a number of Latin-based Romantic languages, Slavic German languages, and in particular Croatian. This multilingual talent appeared to have corrupted the person's writing literacy, and many words are spelled the way they're pronounced, and some letters are religious scribal abbreviations for Latin words, as we saw in the Oak Island translations. Writing for such a merchant probably wasn't a prerequisite as much as being able to communicate with customers from various countries and the ability to tally payments. I realized this was a pronunciation code when I found the word for the location of Ypres, Belgium on the very last line that is traditionally spelled with a Y. But this person spelled it with an I for a similar pronunciation for the word Ibis for Ypres. A few of my translations of the messages are questionable, but many others are not. Two very similar versions of the embroidered letters are found on the internet. There are simple changes of a P for an R or an E for an F that had to be interpreted between the two different versions. One version is on the Wikipedia's Virgin of Candelaria website, and the other is a book titled The Gauche of Tenerife, the Holy Image of Our Lady of Candelaria. In Chapter 13, Friar Alfonso de Espinosa disrobed and examined the statue circa 1590 and documented the letters and certain features about the statue that he called a doll. Espinosa contended the statue is approximately 3.5 feet tall on a pedestal of 2 fingers, consisting of close-grained reddish wood with a somewhat brown complexion and rosy cheeks that has the ability to change colors. The Virgin is holding a naked child in her right hand, and the child is holding a tiny golden bird in both hands, and she has a small green candle of the same wood in her left hand. The Virgin is dressed in a gilded costume from throat to feet, and the visible left foot is shod in an elegant red boot. In order not to bore you, I'll just be doing a brief translation of the embroidered letters on this video and leaving a more detailed account in the description box below for anyone who would like to correct my work, and any corrections would be appreciated. The embroidered letters and their location on the Madonna's garments are neck, left sleeve, robe bottom, belt, right arm mantle, edge left hand, and cue back. Allow me to read my translation from the messages that was left on the Virgin's garments. Ethiopia, Africa, Sepmeries, France, delivering father's vows to the peaceful little infant son of Joseph. She is peaceful Mary, truly and rightfully received and allowed to change herself into something from death. Peaceful everywhere to send always a living bird to the alive sea and beyond. Snake from below tempts queen girl, infinite pious tender mother. And honor and favor Ypres, sign Frau or Fräulein Mivi and V. I'll just give you a quick idea how this all works. As you can see, ETIEPE is Etíope in Spanish for Ethiopia. And you can see that Sepmeries is actually there for Sepmeries, France. The next line on the left sleeve has an LPV, which is like a Latin phrase for delivering father's vows. After that you have Rini, which is a diminutive for meaning peaceful. And Pepe too is a diminutive too, that's a nickname for Joseph. And as you can see that she missed the N in infant. I thought it was very interesting that it quoted that it was son of Joseph, because usually everybody thinks of Jesus as son of Mary. Kind of gives you the idea that maybe Joseph had something to do with all of this. Another real interesting thing was finding the word Om, which is an underwater snake-like salamander that's native to Central and Southeastern Europe, and in particular Slovenia and Croatia. Now the 2 lines before the very last line, I don't know, the translation isn't perfect, and if anybody can give me a hand, I'd appreciate it. So I'm assuming the wood or the carved statue came from Ethiopia. In its travels it ended up in Sepmeries, France, and then was shipped off 64 miles to Ypres, Belgium, to the seamstresses who embroidered the messages on her garment. Both cities were known for their textile industries. Well, I was hoping for a little bit more information about the origin of the Madonnas, and unfortunately the messages give no association to a religious order, but obviously someone had to commission the Madonna, pay for her assembly, and drop her off at the island. Why was this done? My first thought was, could it be that some entity was intentionally seeding Madonnas in places all over the world to throw off those searching for a treasure related to a Madonna? My second thought was, could Black Madonnas symbolize the presence of those who believed in the earth goddess as a secret symbol for persecuted believers, as was the fish symbol during the inception of Christianity? This could be marked locations where believers could celebrate and pray with the Black Madonna. The fish symbol represented the vagina of a woman and is also known as a Vesica Pisces, and the Black Madonna is a refined symbol of womanhood. In fact, my Oak Island treasure location is in the center of a Vesica Pisces. Is this a coincidence? Personally, I don't believe it is. On the very first stop of Christopher Columbus's first voyage, he and his crew had absconded with the Virgin of Candelaria. Columbus was reportedly a devout follower of the Virgin Mary, and as well the Black Madonna. Before his first voyage, with his young son in tow, he worshipped Our Lady of Miracles at the La Rabida Monastery, located along the line drawn earlier from the base of the bearing and distance calculations from Qumran, Israel. However, this Madonna is made of alabaster and is not a Black Madonna. On his second voyage, he embarked from Cadiz, Spain, 6 miles from the Virgin of Miracles, which is the Black Madonna and the patron saint of the city of El Puerto de Santa Maria. This Black Madonna appeared to King Alfonso X during the 13th century. In Jerez de la Frontera, which by water is not far from La Rabida, Our Lady of Mercy appeared to safeguard the prisoners of the slave trade. And not far from there in Chiponia, Our Lady of Rule was hidden from the Moors in a well under a fig tree and found by the apparition of a virgin by a priest. Although I found no documentation that Columbus had visited these Madonnas, it's a fair bet that he did at least visit one of them. Unsurprisingly, Columbus has a Templar connection with his first wife, whom was a Portuguese noblewoman, Filipa Mones Perez Torrello. Legend has it that his widowed mother-in-law gave her husband's Templar maps to Columbus as a wedding gift. Could Columbus have believed that he had found maps leading to a clandestine treasure hidden by the Templars? It's more lore than fact that Columbus carried a Black Madonna with him on his voyages, and as well asked at every port if one existed on the islands that he landed on. So it was no surprise that the very first stop on Columbus's first voyage had him racing off with the Virgin of Candelaria from Tenerife. Now let's take a look at the name of Columbus's 3 ships. In school we learned they were called the Pinta, the Nina, and Santa Maria. In truth, the Nina was called Santa Clara, and its nickname was Nina. The original name of the small Pinta has been lost in time. If we translate these names together, we have Pinta for painted, Nina for young girl, and Santa Maria for the Virgin Mary. So we have a painted young girl, Virgin Mary, which pretty much sums up a Black Madonna. Another legend swirls around that each night at sunset, his crew sang a song to the Virgin Mary of Guadalupe of Spain, whom was a Black Madonna. According to local legend, when Sevilla was taken by the Moors in 712, a group of priests fled northward and buried the statue in a hill near the Guadalupe River in Extremadura. At the beginning of the 14th century, the Virgin appeared one day to a humble cowboy named Gil Cordero, who was searching for a missing animal in the mountains. Cordero claimed that the Virgin Mary had appeared to him and ordered him to ask the priest to dig at the site of the apparition. Was Columbus secretly looking for a treasure using the Spanish royal dime and a trail of the Black Madonnas? Here's a strange thought. Could the Black Madonnas symbolize Algol, the dark eclipsing star system found in the Oak Island Prophesy series that personified Medusa, the beautiful maiden raped and then punished for the rape by being turned into a monster, who was then slain by Perseus' sword? The storyline metaphor sounds familiar even in our modern times. To the Egyptians, Algol symbolized luck, but it appears that changed through time and now it has been given a bad rap. Although I worked in a man's field for years, I never really considered carrying a protest sign for women's lib. But today, the signs are all around us that can't be ignored. Women and the binary star system Algol have been demonized by men for control and power. The Pharisees, corrupt dictators of law, were a prime example of such hypocrisy. Even the word Pharisee itself means in Latin to perish, divide, or separate. As Jesus said to the Pharisees in Matthew 23:13, "You shut the door of the kingdom of heaven in people's faces, nor did you enter yourself." However, the controllers are out of control, and the balance of power needs to be restored. The essence of motherhood and Mother Earth were debased for the good of a few, ignoring the greater good for humanity. Man has been his own worst enemy by using his power for evil, by overcoming good through sleight of hand deceit. What has been lost in time now appears to be resurrecting back into honor, benevolence, and compassion for a new renaissance that is unearthing the gloomy shadows of deceit back into the sunlight of life-giving powers of women, with the Me Too movement creating an unexpected paradigm shift of power that reaches far past sexual harassment. Today, Black Madonnas are a symbol of changing times, from patriarchal aggression to matriarchal feminine spirituality. The misogynistic mindset is being thrown to the side of the road. In the past, women and their deities were either banished or demonized, but a new awakening is unearthing the gloomy shadows of deceit. This vanguard of birth and rebirth are being resurrected from the ashes of patriarchal chaos and are now heralding a pervasive hope for the future of peace, harmony, prosperity, and love versus war, discord, destruction, and hatred. She is now the sign of the time of coming out of the shadows of darkness, because there is no inherent reason why women should not be treated equally. The religious and global views of the Celtic, Germanic, Baltic, and Slavic people who inhabited Europe prior to the Christian era, as well as the Mediterranean beliefs of the Greeks and Romans, revered Mother Earth's bounty of nature and worshipped her in forests, mountaintops, and near sacred springs and wells. A new revival is now weaving the real and the mystical with the natural and divine that the Templars, the Cathars, and the Hermetics struggled to dispel from the Christian controllers. Black Madonnas will be taking you on your own private pilgrimage of understanding and healing. When you overanalyze to the point of embarrassing your own intelligence, new paths must be taken. Black Madonnas are now calling us from the darkness into enlightenment by searching into the depths of ourselves for the answers of essence, spirit, divinity, and truth. These enigmatic unknowns are revealed simply by knowing thyself, honoring the spirit of life, and knowing the difference between right and wrong. She'll take you into your own personal sanctum sanctorum, exposing the secret place in all for a renaissance humankind has never seen before. Except for small pockets of good people, our cultures have lost their essence of spirit, soul, heart, and love. This is a time of healing as the Black Madonnas usher us into a new golden age. It's time to cut the entwined Gordian knot of hypocrisy. When darkness falls, the shadows disappear to be reborn at sunrise. The Virgin of Candelaria's small bird that's in the hands of baby Jesus is symbolic of the alchemy of freedom, new perspective, and a call from the messengers of God, thus bringing truth to the translation on the Virgin's garment that there will be a peaceful time everywhere, to send always a living bird to the alive sea and beyond. Welcome to the new renaissance of truth. If any one thing can be predicted to be in an Oak Island treasure, if one existed or still exists, is a Black Madonna.